we are glad to have Dr. Bill Keenan with us once again to tell us about the war within. Okay, Doc, take it away.
Fantastic. So first and foremost, thank you all for taking up your time to be with me here. And as always, it's an honor. I would completely agree that Mark, you're the man. So I appreciate everything you do from an educational standpoint at the library, and have had the blessing to know you and your wife for quite a number of years. I think the first time I probably met you guys, we both had not as much gray hair as we do now. Donna, you have no gray hair. So today's topic is to me, I went through a couple different things that I could speak on, that we could dialogue about tonight. And Mark gravitated towards the war within. And I think for good reason, because of a lot of the things that we have going on today with COVID, C-19, you'll hear me refer to it if and when it comes up. So today's topic, the name of it is War Within. And what it really, the basis of what I hope you take from this is you'll hear some things that, that you've heard before. And my hope is that you walk away with something, some bit of information that reinforces something positive that you already know and may be doing, and or you may know and not be doing. And if you didn't know it, you pick up on it. And if you walk away doing at least one thing differently, that's going to affect your health, that would be a worthy goal for today. So my background is I'm a chiropractor. My name is Dr. Bill Keenan. I am married to a chiropractor, and we probably have at this point 7 or 8 chiropractors in our family. So that tradition runs deep. My wife and I practice in Limerick, Pennsylvania. As a matter of fact, I have a soon-to-be family member that's practicing right there in Phoenixville, Dr. Lydia Rolla. So our topic, War Within. So it's going to be a light touch, not too deep on immunology, so I will not put you all to sleep with that. We'll do our best. If you have questions, Mark said options are, hey, you can kind of type in a question. I love just chime in and you'll get unmuted if you're not already unmuted. Ask the question. I'll do my best to answer it. And by no means am I an expert on anything, but I know a lot of little things about most anything when it comes to health related. So topic tonight, I always like to start off with a little bit of history because I absolutely love to read history, especially American history, presidential history. And so I'm going to go back to refer to a couple of our former presidents. So 1964, Dr. Lyndon Johnson, LBJ, he started a war. Okay, not the Vietnam War. He didn't start that one. He kind of worked his way through promoting it a little bit. But in 1964, Johnson declared a war on poverty. And a few of us may be old enough to remember that, okay, when he actually did that. That was just a couple years before I entered this planet. But since declaring war on poverty, our poverty rate is about the same, if not a little bit worse than it was in 1964. It was a worthy thing to declare a war on, and a war in the fact that, hey, we want to get equality from a standpoint of people, what they're making, and that the people at the highest income and the people at the lowest, that we have some level of getting closer together. However, we haven't been able to really change the tide on that too much. So one would say a worthy thing and something that we're still working on, but we have not defeated poverty in the world, nonetheless, the United States. Anybody remember the War on Terror? Okay, and what the predicate was for that? That was George W. Bush, and it was following September 11th attack on the Trade Center and also on the Pentagon. So we declared a war on terror, and unfortunately, terror still does exist. Okay, within not so well, even within our borders, one could argue domestic terrorism, but it still exists. So a worthy cause to rid ourselves of senseless violence, but it's something that from a presidential standpoint, when a president makes a statement, I'm going to declare war on this thing, it carries some gravitas, especially from an American president. So it's something that they want to put emphasis on. As a country, we do also. So we've also declared war on cancer. Okay, we've declared war on heart disease, and yet those two things still remain. And we've made great advances in being able to treat heart disease and cancers, and knowing what their causes are, knowing what their triggers are, and things that we can do to help prevent. But we've not stopped that, because cancer and heart disease are the number 1 and 2 causes of death in our country every year, year in and year out. So again, really worthy goals, but we haven't been able to really make a serious, significant dent in eradicating all of these things. So the war within. So the war within is essentially the war that goes on within our bodies every day. So the human body is an amazing thing in a multitude of ways. One of the ways is it's a very self-sustaining entity. Your body has something called innate intelligence, and different people have different terminology. They're going to have different vernacular for what innate intelligence is. So that's just the vernacular I will choose to use for today. Innate intelligence is your body knowing what to do and when to do it and how to do it. So what are some examples of innate intelligence? Well,
Dr. Bell, excuse me. Are you intending to show your PowerPoint right now?
No, I'm just going to go free without PowerPoint. If that's
Gotcha.
I'm just going to roll off of my notes. So from a standpoint of innate intelligence, at conception itself, we have the simplicity of sperm and egg. We have 2 cells, separate cells, okay, that come together, form one, and then from that point, they double and double and double and double and double until 40 weeks later, 9 months, we have if all goes well, a perfectly formed little human being, okay, that gets brought into our world. So innate intelligence is the process by which those cells know what to do to form a human being, nervous system, cardiovascular system, and then from that point on, every 9 months from that point, every cell in a human being's body, minus 1 or 2 cell types, regenerates itself. So essentially, if you think about it, we're a brand new person every 9 months within that cycle, which is an extraordinary thing. So your body, by process of DNA and RNA, self-replicates itself. So at one point I had somebody ask me, when I've spoken on that before, well, they pulled out a picture of them from World War II, okay, and they were a strapping Navy guy. And now at this point, he was about 89, 90 years old. He goes, why did I look like that then and I look like this now if I'm a brand new person every 9 months? Which was an intriguing question. But when it comes to cell replication, DNA is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. And if you did that in a copy machine, after some time, the copy kind of be faded out. Unfortunately, that kind of happens to human beings too. But the premise is your body knows what to do and how to do it. It was created, built in to be able to do that. So one of the things that's built in is your body's ability to be able to recognize foreign antigens or disease and be able to deal with it. So for gosh, probably about 150, 200 years or longer, there's been a debate, okay, within medicine, within science. So what's the cause of disease? What's the cause of disease? There's 2 major premises that we can work off of. One's the soil theory, okay, and one's the seed theory. So the soil theory was perpetuated by a gentleman named Claude Bernard, okay, in the early to mid 19th century. And he was a French physiologist. He had an ongoing gig going on with Louis Pasteur. And does anybody know what Louis Pasteur was famous for? A couple things. Okay, yeah. So Bernard and Pasteur, Bernard had the quote saying that illnesses hover constantly above us. They're seeds blown by the wind, but they do not set in a terrain unless the terrain is ready to receive them. So it's a pretty neat thought process. So Bernard's concept was, well, if the host, okay, is susceptible for disease to take hold, that's when disease takes hold and a person gets sick. Okay, so you could name the disease, the bacteria, the virus, cancers and such. Now Pasteur, okay, and they were friendly, but they had this thing going on because Pasteur was more of the mind of, well, it's not so much the soil. He worked off of the germ theory, so that germs were the cause of all disease. So, and especially in this particular day and age with COVID and C-19, I would argue that it's both. I think it's incredibly important, okay, that we do all that we can to build up the host, okay, and even if we do the right things to build up the host and make the soil of the human body not fertile for disease to set in and take hold, okay, and do damage to us, and in some cases take us off this planet. It was interesting, though, on Pasteur's deathbed, one of the things that he said, it wasn't his last words, I hope, I don't believe it's the case, but he basically affirmed that his buddy Bernard was right. He said, it's basically, it's the soil, not the seed. And he went on to say that essentially, if the germ theory were correct, that germs were the sole cause, okay, of all human ailments, if that were true, then we would all be dead. For the mere fact that we're constantly surrounded by germs, we're constantly surrounded by viruses. Within each one of us, as we speak, whether we do have active cancer or not, we all have cancerous cells, a certain number that reside within our bodies at any given moment. The thing is, your body has this immune system which works in beautiful ways, that it recognizes mutating cells, and if all is working well within the host, okay, they're recognized, tagged, and we could use the analogy of a little Pac-Man from the 80s, goes in once it's been tagged and gobbles it up, and it's not able to take hold, and therefore that person doesn't get cancer. So in today's day and age, I think we have to look at, especially with, and I'm not going to get too deep into C19, if somebody has questions, to the best of my knowledge, I will answer them. We can have a person with a really, really great immune system, and they eat right, okay, and they drink lots of water, and they're not smoking cigarettes, and they're exercising, and they have good mental and physical health, and yet, okay, we can have a germ or a virus that does take hold within our body. So I believe that Pasteur and Bernard were both correct, because it does take a certain combination of seed, okay, and soil for disease to take hold. That being said, there is something that we as human beings have definitive control over, and that is how well we care for the human frame. Does that make sense? So there's a virus right now called C19, and it is affecting certain groups of people more than others. If you're immunocompromised, you have a greater likelihood, not likelihood, but the outcomes, if you're immunocompromised, are sometimes far worse than somebody who has a very, very healthy immune system. People with each advancing decade of age, okay, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, they are more susceptible to not get it, because I think we're all in the same boat as far as the ability to contract a virus like that. But the effects are more profound when we have a host, okay, that isn't as healthy or can't receive it and fight it off as well. So we can't control, okay, a virus like C19 as far as that it's out there and if we contract it. But the things that we can control, okay, are what are we doing as hosts to make our immune systems function even better. And if we do have something like that, if we do have some other ailment that comes down the pike and we do actually get it, if we have mutating cells and they end up becoming cancerous, we're better off having been hosts that have been drinking, okay, the amount of water that we should drink every day, which is half our body weight divided by 2. What you are is what you eat has a lot of merit in that. The better our diet is, the less inflammatory the diet. And this is one of the workshops I've done before. And if you've ever heard it before, if a lot of people are walking around with a lot of inflammation in their body simply because of the food that they eat. And all disease, period, known to man, has its root cause with inflammation at a cell level. And how do you get inflammation at a cell level? It's what we're eating. It's what we're putting into our bodies. So if we are building ourselves up so we have better outcomes, and the soil, okay, which is our own bodies, is less apt to have the seed take hold. And if it does take hold, we have better outcomes of getting through, okay, whatever disease process we have acquired or is built up within us, we have a lot of control over those things. So in a way, we may think, well, we're somewhat helpless for things that are going on around us, and yet we're not. Okay, and yet we're not. So my ask of each one of you is to assess and take an assessment. Can I, as a host, okay, can I care for my frame better? Can I raise my body's ability to recognize and fight disease more effectively? And the answer should be, for each one of us, okay, theoretically, it is yes. However, it comes down to choices. Okay, it comes down to choices and what we choose to do. So that being said, I jumped ahead about 5 slides. Okay. So some of the things that I wanted to talk about are, okay, the things that we can do to improve immune response. So number one, we talked about diet, and that's probably the biggest one that's out there that we have control over. And if we're talking about diet and inflammation, there's inflammatory foods. It's a drum that I beat quite often. Inflammatory foods are the things that you're going to think that may cause inflammation. You would guess and probably be right on that. So for starters, the things that you want to try and avoid are carbohydrates that are from processed foods, breads, starches, processed foods that you might get out of a mac and cheese box. Okay, those things are going to create inflammation. Sodas are going to create inflammation. Diet sodas. The thing that you can drink that actually doesn't create inflammation and helps reduce it is water. And I touched on it earlier. Each of us should be striving to drink at least half our body weight in water each day in ounces. Okay, because you can't overdo it with water. Sugars. Sugars aren't the great devil in our diet. However, okay, refined sugars in large quantities actually really does create tremendous amounts of inflammation. If you're going to go for sugar, try and go for for sugars that are not processed. And when you're reading labels on food, really check and see how much sugar is present. And if you think to yourself, well, I'm going to decrease the amount of sugar that I put into my body, so I'm going to get like a little packet, little blue packets, okay, and they're artificial sweeteners. I'm here to tell you right now, you're much better off, okay, just going for the regular sugar, because the artificial sweeteners, the way that they're made up, is they do more harm immunologically and to your body at a cell level than just sugars. Not to say go crazy on the sugars, but if you're going to say I need to have a little sweet, do it in moderation and just go for the natural good stuff, because your body knows how to break that down and process it properly. On the flip side, what can you eat and put into your body that's de-inflammatory? They're the same groups of things that you would think would help to de-inflame. Vegetables, okay, fruits.
Can you hear that?
Nope.
I can. We have a question? All right, I wasn't sure if we had a question. So vegetables and fruits. Now, some fruits are going to have sugars in them. However, if it's natural and it came out of the ground, okay, off a tree, you're doing pretty good. So from a protein perspective, we need to make sure that we're getting proteins into our systems. So proteins, if you're going to choose to have chicken or fish or even steak, and the red meat should be at a lower proportion than chickens or fish, I would always urge to do your best to spend a couple extra dollars and go and get you something that's organic. And organic, what I mean by that is if it's a chicken, it's a free-range chicken. It's out running around. Okay, it's not stuck in a cage. It's not getting pumped full of antibiotics and hormones. Okay, because if you're eating food, okay, that's been pumped full of antibiotics and hormones, you're also ingesting what that chicken used to be, and that's part of that also. Chickens aren't used to eating like grains. So cows are not made to be eating oats and things like that. They have 6 stomachs for a reason, because if they're out in a pasture and they're eating grass, their bodies are made to do that, to break it down. And if you're getting meat, okay, that's been fed with things that are like oats and not grass fed, that meat is inflamed. And if you're ingesting inflamed meat, you're inflaming your tissue. If you're inflaming your tissue, you're compromising your immune system, okay, and also your nervous system. So this all goes back to choices. What can we do to improve upon what we do to raise up our immune systems? And the biggest choice is diet, and also making sure that you're drinking lots of water, which doesn't mean, again, Coke, Diet Coke, iced tea, coffees, teas. That doesn't mean that you can't do those things, but you're much better off, okay, going for, okay, that amount of water per day. Full disclosure, I'm a coffee drinker. First thing in the morning, I want my cup of coffee. But I don't drink 6 or 7 cups of coffee a day because the caffeine also has an impact on your body. So before I go any further, any questions? Awesome. Exercise. Exercise has been proven to be able to help fight off disease, and if we have disease, help mitigate the amount of disease that will continue to perpetuate within your body. Now, what's proper exercise for each person? It's what your body can tolerate and handle. I see Greg Fox there, and I see he has his Spartan picture there, which means he's done a Spartan race. So Greg, for him, going out and taking a leisurely stroll at about 2.5 miles an hour may not be something that floats his boat. His exercise is going to be more intense, and he looks pretty darn fit. So for some others, for me to do a Spartan race, I think if I just went and tried to do it, I think I'd be probably laying in bed like with very sore muscles for up to a week. So exercise is incredibly important for multiple reasons. You have to choose what form of exercise is the proper amount of exercise for you and the type. So if it's just a matter of walking and you have a hard time walking and you make a goal to get from here to a block and a half or 2 blocks down the street, you make it back and you're either sore or out of wind, well, okay, well, the next week, maybe it's going to be 4 blocks. Okay, and the next week, it's going to be 8 blocks. Choose your form of exercise, and as long as you're moving, you're doing good things for your body. Movement is crucial for human beings because when we stop moving, that's when things start to go wrong. So choose whatever form of exercise that's going to be best for you. Pick something that you're going to improve upon with your diet, okay, that is going to make an impact for you in a positive way. And it may be something that you're going to add to, okay, like drinking more water or saying, you know what, the organic stuff when it comes to, beef or chicken, maybe a few more dollars, but maybe once a week I'm going to splurge and be able to do that. Anything that you do in a positive fashion is going to help affect inflammation, which is going to help affect how well your body recognizes and fights off disease. So going back again, so it's seed and soil. We can't control what's around us, but we can control what's within us. And our bodies know what to do and how to do it. If we are giving them the tools that they need, them as far as our bodies, we're going to be healthier people because of that. So that's the big takeaway that I have today. I hope you have today is choosing and picking something that you will do differently, either adding on or taking away. And if you could choose one thing to add on and improve upon and one thing to take away, okay, your immune system is going to function better, okay, especially in the area of diet and exercise. If you pick one of each and you go a month out and you're diligent with that one of each thing, you're going to feel a whole lot better. And the goal may not be to lose weight, but guess what? Okay, if you're doing one of each, you're going to lose weight. Okay, if you've had achy, sore joints, okay, and you're de-inflaming your body, okay, what you're doing is you're going to start feeling a whole lot better. You're going to feel less sore. You're going to feel like you're going to want to move more. So those are the things that I ask of each of you to do is pick something to add to and pick something to take away. That's it. Simple as that. So any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
So are there any advantages to the whole foods plant-based diet?
Yes. I have a 16-year-old vegan in my house. So the answer is yes to that, 100%. So a whole food plant-based diet, you are almost automatically getting out some of the things that inflame tissue. Because a lot of people that they are eating the chickens, they are eating fish, but the fish is coming from a farm, and the fish are being fed food that's not natural to their diet, and the fish is inflamed. So a whole food, organic based diet helps de-inflame tissue a lot. The caveat might be, and is, one, making sure that it's done wisely and researched, because you're going to want to make sure you get the proper amount of protein into your diet, because your body does need the protein. And number two, not overdoing it with carbs. My 16-year-old, we had an issue with that because she's been a vegan for 3 years, a vegetarian for 6. Was making sure that she was getting proper, because she actually wasn't looking good when she first started the whole food plant-based, because she knew it all. We didn't know anything as doctors. She wasn't getting enough protein, and she was loading up on carbs too much. And so she was actually getting more inflamed. And then she had a bit of a sensitivity to some of the foods that she was eating. And we figured out what they were and just pulled them out. So sorry for the long-winded answer, but it's actually really, really, that's a great way to exist. Very much. I haven't had the discipline to jump in as much as she has, but because I have to cook for her and all of us, we've kind of married up what we do at our house because of it, and it's been a benefit to me. My wife has gone even more plant-based, and almost 100% in the past 4 weeks. And the goal wasn't to lose weight, but she lost about 15 pounds. And the aches and pains, because she practices with me and we're blessed to see a lot of people, in our early 50s, she was starting to get pretty darn sore at the end of each week. And at this point now, she's like, I don't feel a blessed thing. I feel great. So part of her issue was the foods that she was eating were inflaming her tissue. And when she took that out after a month, she feels tremendously better. She has more energy. So again, sorry for the long-winded answers, but I'm a big fan if done correctly.
Mm-hmm. All right.
100%.
Any further questions? You can unmute yourself by holding your finger on the space bar.
So if there's not a question right now, I will take a moment just to, because I typically don't. Within my practice, I don't. I always make a concerted effort to not give people my opinions on things. So I'm going to try not to do that right now. But I am going to say, in this current environment with things that are going on, we're on Zoom for a reason. We're socially distancing. So it's a safe way to be able to communicate with each other. I'm a big proponent of people at this particular moment doing their best to wear a mask whenever they can, because I don't think there is no doubt about the research, and I've read a tremendous amount of what's going on right now with C-19. Masks are really helpful, and we don't wear masks to the person wearing the mask is wearing it to protect the person that may be next to them. So for me, and for what the research says, you're doing it as a protector of others. So, and my nature is, and I think most, if not all human beings, have an internal way of wanting to help others. I think that's what we all in our hearts really want to do. So if we're wearing masks and we're being conscious of that, you're actually helping others by doing so. And when I say that, it's in no way, shape, or form, there's no politics involved with that. The research is pretty much undeniable at this time that if we do the right thing and we just do it for a short period of time and wear masks and keep our distance and wash our hands, we'd be further along than what we are. So my hope and wish for each one of us is, I think we all find masks annoying. If you do, raise your hand. Okay, I don't have fun wearing a mask all day, every day, huffing around in my office, but I do it because I believe it's the right thing to do. I have a daughter and a son that are immunocompromised, a type 1 diabetic, okay, and asthmatic. I do it for them. And I definitely very much so do it for my patients. And if we're all doing that, even though it's something we may not thoroughly believe in, there are a tremendous number of people out there that are immunocompromised, and they do believe that. So my ask of each of us is, one, ask of myself, hey, I have to be patient with people who may not think that way, and respect what their wishes and thoughts are, because they think that, because they have reasons for thinking that. I may not agree with them, but it's not my job to sit there and make them feel poorly about it. So it is one of those things where it's kind of like a social pact. We're all trying to help each other. And on the flip side, I would hope that people that don't think that that's a great idea to wear masks, for whatever reason it may be, that they take the same thought process, and that is just to seek to understand. And if we are trying to understand each other and be tolerant of each other, we're all going to get through this. Nobody wants to be in the place that we are, and hopefully we can get through it more quickly. And I believe that's a great way to be able to do it. So thank you for letting me have a little bit of latitude on that, without getting too deep into that particular subject. It's one that I am a bit passionate about, and I'm going to hold back that passion, and wish you all good health, and that we all get through this in a very healthy fashion.
Can't emphasize those things enough, Dr. Bill, that's for sure.
Awesome. It's a touchy subject because some people get.
Is
I'm passionate, and I've learned to hold back the passion, because my thoughts can't be everybody else's, and vice versa. But I've done more research than you would think is normal for a human being. Okay, on this disease, and the way that it perpetuates, and the things that are helpful to slow it down, and who it affects. And these things are ever changing. Things that we knew or didn't know months ago that we do know now, it's going to keep on changing. I think that we're like in the military, they have an after-action report after an engagement, to find out what worked, what didn't work, what can we do better next time. We're going to know a lot more a year or two after this is all over than we even do now. So for me, if there's a mistake to be made by wearing, and you wore a mask, I'd rather make that mistake and find out later than make the mistake of not wearing one, and not socially distancing, and not washing hands, because the one is I made a mistake and it was an annoyance, and the other one is I made a mistake and I could have been part of making somebody sick or taking their life. So, and in the end, the economy gets back to where it should be, the quicker we can get through all this, and I think it's a great way to do it. So thank you for allowing me that latitude. And I mean no offense to anybody that thinks any different. Promise.
any further questions for Dr. Bill?
Awesome. Well, you have all been totally awesome and wonderful. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you for spending your time with me, and you all enjoy the rest of your night, and be safe.
Thank you so much. It was very informative.
All right, awesome. Bye, everybody.